Peru's Amazon, timber is big business. You only have to see the thousands of tree trunks piled high along the river Amazon here in the jungle city of Iquitos. Tropical hardwoods like kumala, lupuna, chihuahuaco, or the protected cedar. Another tropical hardwood felled somewhere in the Peruvian Amazon. The wood from this tree could be bound for Europe, the United States, or even China. This is a legal logging concession, but this tree didn't form part of any forestry plan. It is, to all intents and purposes, part of the illegal trade in wood from Peru's Amazon. In 3 months this year, Peruvian customs officials, with the help of Interpol, seized enough illegal wood to fill 6 Olympic swimming pools. And in 2012, the World Bank estimated 80% of Peru's timber exports were made up of illegal wood. We joined forestry inspectors, whose job it is to check that those given logging concessions stick to the law. The only way to get up the network of shallow rivers and streams to the logging concession is in a canoe powered by one of these, a peke motor. We've been warned that we're not expected at our destination and we might not get the warmest of welcomes. We're in Loreto, an Amazon region of Peru which is larger than Germany. Branching off the Amazon River, we spent a day travelling by boat, then a 5-hour trek to the logging camp. Just 12 forestry inspectors cover this enormous territory, and we're trekking through just one tiny part of it. We arrive. The loggers are knocking off for the day. The man in charge is ABILIO CORDOVA, and he doesn't seem too happy to see us.
It's impossible to work within the law. We have to cut corners, or we wouldn't make a profit.
The inspectors get to work. Every single tree that's earmarked to be felled has to be identified, measured, and registered with GPS coordinates. These forestry inspectors are checking that what's on the ground matches up with what's in the paperwork. It's not matching up. These logs do not come from the trees which were permitted to be felled.
The quantity of illegal wood can't be calculated. It arrives with the paperwork, but we know that mafias sell the documents for the origin and volume of timber. That's why it's so important that we verify it on the ground.
In other words, the timber is laundered. Trees illegally logged outside concessions are passed off as the pre-selected trees. And there's something else growing somewhere in this 4 square kilometre concession. Coca, the leaf used to make cocaine. According to Cordova, the plantations are run by Colombian drug cartels, and our presence hasn't gone unnoticed. This huge area is dotted with coca plantations, and the locals here say that they're run by Colombians from just across the border. Last night, 2 men came to this logging camp where we're staying, and they told us that we had to leave. We're not going to take any risks, and we're leaving today. We have no way of knowing if the men were really Colombian narcos or it was a ruse intended to interrupt the forestry inspection. But we didn't hang around to find out. Villagers in the nearby community of Nuevo Jardín said outsiders were emptying their forests of lumber and game.
We grow banana, rice, and maize, and that's how we live. But we worry how will our children live, what they will eat. The logging concession owners take all the wood. They hunt all the game while we try to live in harmony with the forest. Who is supervising all this?
Back on the mighty Amazon River, we passed Pebas, one of the larger riverside towns, and this barge load of cut timber.
This is approximately 600 to 700 cubic meters of timber. We know where this shipment came from, but we have no way of knowing the exact origin of the wood, even if it has the correct paperwork.
As the barge sat alongside, I asked the local official in charge of inspecting passing timber shipments how much of it was illegal.
There's always been illegal logging, and we need much better logistical support to really combat it.
We later discovered that Solano, hadn't even left his office to check this substantial shipment. The millions of dollars of international funds dedicated to tackling illegal logging in Peru clearly weren't reaching this Amazon backwater. Further downriver, in a place called Islandia, on the frontier with Brazil, the situation was worse. By the time the timber arrives at this sawmill on Peru's Amazon border with Colombia and Brazil, it's practically untraceable. Any inconvenient details, such as where it came from, have been smoothed over as it was rubber stamped by Peruvian officials on its way here. From here, timber heads in all directions, including back upriver into Peru and its Amazon ports of Yurimaguas and Pucallpa, from there by road to seaports and abroad. There were no officials here. Around 300 tons of cut wood is loaded onto barges like this every week and shipped off just as in dozens of other sawmills. It's incredible to see how these guys work. No kind of protective gear whatsoever. Apparently to work here, all you need is a pair of shorts and flip-flops. On this, the Javier River dividing Brazil and Peru, loggers fear only the Brazilian police, said Felipe Portocarrero, a timber concessionary.
Here, the businessmen like to give money to the illegal loggers because the wood is cheaper, so there's plenty of them. The police know this. Everyone gets bribed and the wood passes through.
He said 3/4 of the passing timber was illegal, plundered from indigenous reserves or national parks. At the last checkpoint in Peruvian territory, we interrupted the customs official's siesta. If he says the papers are in order, the police told us, we can't intervene. Controls were weak to the point of non-existent, a point accepted by the head of the regional customs office, Jorge Romano.
Of course there's corruption. Consider the immensity of the Amazon basin versus the existing points of control. One has to say that they are extremely limited.
Rank corruption, laundered timber, and porous borders. The struggle turned deadly when Edwin Chota, an internationally recognized activist, was murdered, along with 3 fellow indigenous Ashaninka leaders, Jorge Rios, Leonicio Quintísima, and Francisco Piñero. The widow of indigenous leader Jorge Rios told CCTV powerful people are behind this lucrative business.
The threats began many years ago, ever since we started to report on the illegal loggers' activities. The regional government is colluding with lumber businesses and timber concession owners, so it's no surprise that we were ignored. Now, we're asking for the state to provide security to protect our lives.
Speaking in her native Ashaninka language, she explained the regional government had yet to give their community a land title because it intersected with a logging concession.
Our husbands died defending our territory, and we're still asking the state to give us the proper title for our land. Without our land, we are nothing. It's becoming more urgent, and more problems will befall us.
Her husband and his companions were not the first, and likely won't be the last, to lose their lives combating criminal logging mafias. It seems there's little reason to be optimistic. Indeed, Peruvian officials have accepted they don't have a handle on the situation, says Julia URRUNAGA of the Environmental Investigation Agency.
The Peruvian Director of Forest Information publicly acknowledged that there was no way for the Peruvian government at the moment to know which timber was legal and which timber was illegal. And we're exporting this, we're trading this. It's irresponsible from our side, and it's irresponsible for the countries that are actually receiving this timber.
Tracing the wood through the chain of custody is a problem. Is there a solution? Amazon investigator Dennis Del Castillo thinks there is.
Esos fondos que se gastan en la capital que vengan a fortalecer el sistema de gobernanza que tenemos en la Amazonía.
All the money that's spent in the capital should be spent here in the Amazon. It could be used to create a tracking system whereby every tree can be traced back.
Sino con el espíritu de facilitar al empresario legal.
Against the odds, one entrepreneur is trying to show that logging in Peru can be done in a sustainable way.
We decided that we wanted to set up a business to prove that private investment, private capital could be profitable in a sustainable forestry business in the tropics, in this case in Peru. It's been very difficult, very much pushing a rock up a hill. We've set out our standards which we are complying to, and it's all been quite new for Peru, so each time that we've had to do something, it seems that we're doing it for the first time.
Gareth Hughes runs the only Forestry Stewardship Council certified company in Peru, the gold standard for the industry.
We believe that markets are developing. Europe is definitely leading the world in terms of demanding certainly legally logged wood, and then sustainably legally logged wood. We think that the future is very bright.
Green gold forestry could be the model of the future, but right now it's the exception rather than the rule. For now, it seems the future of Peru's tropical forest and the people who live there is in jeopardy.
America's Now